Have you noticed something? The world of modern comedy has reached an impasse, and many comedians are returning to a style and time that wasn't stifled by a constant need for political correctness. Seeing people like George Carlin in the 70s to Jerry Seinfeld in the 90s, you see modern comedians wanting to shed the burden of political correctness and just being funny. I don't think any other comedian has been relevant long enough to notice this decades-long change, which is why this interaction between Jerry Seinfeld and Seth Meyers still remains so enlightening.
I do this joke about the way people need to justify their cell phone. I need to have it with me because people are so important.
Right.
You know, I said, well, they don't seem very important the way you scroll through them like a gay French king. You know, just... Well...
That's very offensive to the gay French king.
Well, yeah. I did this line recently in front of an audience, and comedy's where you can kind of feel like an opinion. And they thought, what do you mean gay? What are you talking about gay? What are you saying gay? What are you doing? What do you mean, you know? And I thought, are you kidding me?
You know what that moment is for a performer? It's the realization that there's a disconnect opening up between him and the audience, and in that gap are the sensitivities people have evolved from the modern culture wars. And you know why that is? This particular joke was first told during a TV appearance on David Letterman all the way back in 2001. And was retold in Seinfeld's Netflix special in 2020.
They're so important, aren't they? Yeah. Really? They don't seem very important. Not the way you scroll through their names on your contact list like a gay French king. Who pleases me today?
And it just so happens that these are the 2 decades where we've seen people's political sensitivities increase around an issue like this, as well as a closing of the walls for comedians that employ them. That's why you see some critics and magazines saying that Jerry is, quote, stuck in time, and it's also why fellow comedians like Chris Rock or Larry the Cable Guy not wanting to perform at college campuses anymore because they are so PC, have made him rethink it for himself as well. Jerry Seinfeld has sometimes been compared to listening to an uncle that doesn't seem to get on with the times, and we've seen ample criticism from political commentators like Sam Cedar who are more than willing to see all that's wrong with this particular joke.
It's just, old guy pissed off that the world is, like he's no longer centered in the universe.
Or this joke isn't that funny. It's just not that funny.
Right. He can't see that.
People are gay now. And that this is not, people no longer think of gay people as flamboyant.
Right, exactly. It's not like, when people, and French kings are not at Versailles anymore with cell phones.
And by the way, this suffocating culture in non-political comedy is one thing, but what happens when a comedy deliberately takes on political themes, and what use is comedy and humor if it can't just poke fun at the power? It is said that if you want to see who rules over you, see who you're not allowed to criticize. That also includes someone you're not allowed to ridicule, and when it comes to comedians and even journalists today, they're practically faced with a whole list of ideas they are not allowed to explore. It's something that became abundantly clear when the New Yorker magazine was under fire for their political satire cartoons, and editor David Remnick was in the front facing the heat.
I had to go on CNN to explain this, and it's never a good moment, A, when you're on television explaining a joke, and B, when the guy on CNN is asking you, well, that could have been on the cover of a Nazi magazine. Thanks a lot.
I know,
my mother is watching this show.
Explain and defend is not apologize. Did you?
No, I didn't apologize.
Okay, have you ever done that?
Apologize?
Yeah.
No.
And I think you shouldn't. Apologies are an admission of guilt, and if you don't truly think you've done something wrong, then you're just inviting the wrath of a mob with pitchforks that wants to virtually cancel and crucify you. For people like Jerry Seinfeld, that introduces a new verbal minefield that all but destroys the freedom needed for comedy. And that's not a game he's willing to play. That minefield is made of race relations, gender confusion, and a whole host of hot-button issues that humor is forced to navigate, diluting its purpose in the process. I think that's why when Jerry Seinfeld was offered over $100 million for a reboot of a classic like Seinfeld, he knew he had to turn it down, seeing just how far the audience has changed, and not wanting to take that risk.
As long as we're on this subject, which I think is very relevant, you said the other day, I saw a thing, I think it was on Instagram, you're not going to make any jokes about Caitlyn Jenner.
I said that day I wasn't. I don't.
Oh, that day.
No, but I don't want to. Again, now Caitlyn Jenner is a person who will continue to do things in the public eye, and she will be as open to jokes as everybody else. But as far as that cover in that moment, I sort of thought that was a wonderful moment, and that wasn't a time to make a joke. So.
Oh, okay.
But I don't want to think Caitlyn Jenner
you...
can't go around doing whatever she wants the rest of her life and thinking she's not going to show up in a monologue.
Okay,
good.
Very
clear about that.
All right, good. Yeah. I feel better now.
Yeah. I think I can respect that, though of course it could just be a cover for Seth Meyers not wanting to be embroiled in another controversy around the trans debate with someone like Caitlyn Jenner. How far to tread the line of offense is a decision for individuals to make, but Caitlyn Jenner's Vanity Fair cover was certainly not exempt from humor from many other comedians. Not from Jon Stewart or from many show hosts at Fox News. But that's somewhat besides the point, because even people like to push boundaries of offense in comedy do understand that there is a line that exists, or else they wouldn't have a career in the first place. I think that shouldn't be a problem for someone like Jerry Seinfeld, who isn't even known as a comedian of that genre, and is still widely respected and revered on both sides of the political aisle. I remember Jerry speaking candidly once to Howard Stern about the gift of being able to make people laugh, even if it means dedicating every waking moment of your life to it.
I'm never not working on material.
So
ever.
even when you're sitting with your wife, you're sitting with the kids, it's material.
Every second of my existence, I'm thinking, could I do something with that? It's like going into the gym every day.
It's hard.
You know how you walk in every day and you go, oh, geez, I got to do this again.
Yeah, it sounds like a tortured life. And you say
it is.
Not,
It is. But you know what? Your blessing in life is when you find the torture you're comfortable with.
I can't
and that's
argue
marriage,
with that.
it's kids, it's work, it's exercise,
yes.
It's not eating the food you want to eat.
Right.
Find the torture you're comfortable with and you'll do well.
It's certainly a privilege to be able to do that, and it's a template that works across all walks of life broadly, if not in the minute details. And if people like Jerry Seinfeld can make the world a tiny bit better in their own way, it would be the loss of society at large to stifle and silence them for the sake of some warped notion of politeness and sensitivity. It is sometimes said that political correctness is just tyranny disguised as manners. Whether you agree with that or not, it's certainly true that comedy is a special class of speech that perhaps deserves an even freer space for dialogue, mistakes, and offense than other areas. That's the only way they can expand the perimeters of our conversation and make us laugh in the process.